So we want it to keep going, but we have to table it a moment for our guest. The gentleman that can't get on WebEx, so it's the second time. I think for our next meeting we're going to bring people in, even if there's a little space, rather than attending WebEx. But Paul is a remarkable visionary in my mind. We've been working together for about a year. He runs the American Manufacturers for Excellence, and he understands the importance of education and literacy in feeding his workforce. He has about 1,100 corporations in his organization, from the very largest you can think of. And he has become our partner. He's helped us bridge relationships with all of the manufacturing associations. He's also heavily involved in technical schools and helping people get the skills they need to get into the workforce. And that is not just our young people, but also our old people that need to be retrained. He is in love with online learning and how do we credential and spread opportunity around the country. So Paul, my friend, I'm going to turn it over to you. You've got a group of 2 men and a lot of women, and I know you love women, so. So welcome, Paul.
I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Us too.
Thank you, Cynthia, I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cynthia, do you have the slides that I sent you?
I know, but I will look for them immediately. I'm sorry, no one told me you were sending slides, Paul. I apologize. Give me a minute.
Nope, no problem. Thank you very much for asking me to join you today. It's a pleasure to be involved with such a very strong movement. And I'm very, as Cynthia indicated, I'm a very strong believer in the need for literacy and preparing our kids for the world of community as well as the workforce. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you a little bit today. I'd like to talk a little bit about 4 areas. I'm going to link what we're going to talk about with what you're doing to manufacturing. So we're going to talk about why is manufacturing so important to what we're doing in our economy. I'd also like to talk about where A&E is going with regard to that. And Cynthia and I and Rich Long have been working together as a part of the literacy support function with manufacturing as a desirable career path. I'd also like to take a look at the challenges that manufacturing is facing with regard to our workforce. And then wrap up with talking about education's role and what actions education can be taking on a grassroots level. And if we could proceed along those lines, I think we could have a very lively discussion. And by the way, I will entertain questions anywhere along the line. You do not have to wait to the end. So if you have one, just come on up with it. I had a little hard time hearing Cynthia, so whoever does ask a question, please speak up.
Okay, and Paul, we have your slides up, so just tell me when to click.
Go to number 1.
Got it.
I'm watching a young lady with a yellow blouse right now. That's where the camera's focused on. Just so you know, you're on camera there.
You're a young girl on
What have you got up right? What have you got up now, Cynthia? You got number 1 up?
Cornerstone of our economy.
All right. Yeah, why manufacturing? Truly, if you read any of the information that has been circulating now, that we are in the midst of a manufacturing renaissance. Oh, this is lovely. Look at everybody there. I wish I was there. Hello. Manufacturing is truly the cornerstone of our economy. It is for a number of reasons. It basically is a multiplier of jobs. It's basically provides better paying jobs, which can be distributed to our economy. It is the driver of productivity growth. And then fourthly, it's basically a major contributor to the economy. And that's why manufacturing is so important to what's going on in the economy. If you look at manufacturing, go to the next slide, Cynthia. If you look at manufacturing, for every dollar invested, we get $1.48 back into the economy. So that's what we kind of call manufacturing the cornerstone of our economy. And we in the Association for Manufacturing Excellence, next one, Cynthia.
Got it.
Got it? Mm-hmm. We at the association have been very responsive to the resurgence of manufacturing, if you will, for the last 3 to 4 years. There's been a number of activities going on. We have just finished a San Antonio conference. By the way, it was on the heels of the IRA conference, which was in San Antonio. Suddenly I'm getting voice feedback here. So suddenly I think some of the voices kicked in on without this thing. So are you hearing me all right?
Yep. I hear you great.
Okay. So we finished the San Antonio conference on the revitalization of manufacturing. And we have, I'm getting feedback on my part over here. Hold on a minute. All right. And we also have had a number of conference workshops on the impact of the reshoring movement in manufacturing. We sponsor the Reshoring Initiative. We've written a number of articles and papers with regard to manufacturing, and we're very supportive of the Manufacturing Competitiveness Act, H.R. 5865, which would develop a strategic plan for the resurgence of manufacturing. So we are very much involved in it, very supportive of it. And when you look at our direction, next one, Cynthia.
Got it.
When you look at the direction of the Association for Manufacturing Excellence, we very much want to be a driver of a manufacturing excellence, driven by people-centric leadership and enterprise excellence. And this is going to be done in 4 areas. Next one, Cynthia. People-centric leadership, enterprise excellence, innovation, and manufacturing as a desirable career. And for our purposes today, I'd like to talk a little bit more about manufacturing as a desirable career. Go ahead, Cynthia. The challenges we face with regard to manufacturing is we currently have 600,000 jobs open due to the lack of skills. Now we all know we have unemployment rates running at a 7 or 8% rate. And yet we still have 600,000 manufacturing jobs that are going unfulfilled because we don't have the skills. We have a major skill gap in our society, and we're not addressing that skill gap. 50% of our high school graduates are coming out that can't read or do math at grade level. There's a major problem with us in the manufacturing industry trying to get qualified, competent workforce. The complexity of our manufacturing jobs continues to improve. Manufacturing is not the manufacturing of old. It's not a greasy floor with basic labor. It's a high-tech operation. You need to understand how to run CNC machines. You need to have a higher education. So the complexities are getting bigger. The last challenge is basically the one of baby boomers. Baby boomers are going through our generation, and we all know that Generation Y is a very dramatic fall-off. We just won't have the number of people available to fill some of our jobs. So these are some of the major challenges that we're facing with regard to manufacturing. Excuse me, I have to get a little moisture. Okay, what we're trying to address with regard to AME is to the skill draft. We're going to be developing a Crossroads website, which is going to match up a number of different activities that are going on with regard to skill development. We have a number of organizations out there that have got a variety of things going on, and we would like to bring them together so they're not operating in silos. We would like to promote students in manufacturing activity. We're going to do this through our partnerships, with APQC, SME. We have a number of consortia out there that I have a workforce, volunteer workforce of approximately 100 to 125 individuals throughout North America that will be taking up mentorship of high school and some college kids, helping them understand the value of manufacturing. We want to improve the competency of reading, math, and critical thinking. And we'll be doing this in conjunction with you all and the Hahn Foundation, as well as Rich and IRA, to help drive the improvement in our educational process. We also want to partner with key organizations to maximize the impact of our activities. The Society of Manufacturing Engineers, APQC, IRA, Manufacturing Institute, the Hahn Foundation. These are all organizations that are part of our committee to drive manufacturing as a desirable career. So we're taking the whole issue from the currently unemployed individuals who need a skill development and a career path all the way down into the educational process, which needs to begin to develop our kids so that they can meet the needs of our workforce in the future. Next one, Tim.
Got it.
What is your role? Your role, the education's role, is basically to improve our educational system. Right now, our educational system, the K-12 particularly, is not producing the competency in our kids that we need in our workforce. The role of education is to improve this. There are a number of vehicles out there that are addressing educational improvement. APQC right now is working with approximately 60 different schools to improve their educational processes. The Ball-Ridge system works with schools to improve their focus and alignment. Shipley is also another tool that is out there that helps educational improvement. So the number one thing we need to do is improve our educational system and the processes that are used there. Obviously, we need to improve the literacy, reading, math, critical thinking, and y'all are doing a very good job of doing that. And we will support that and do whatever you think is possible. I have a workforce, like I said, a national workforce of 100 to 125 people that are ready to respond to some of the needs in helping improve literacy. Also, what needs to be done by education is to really accelerate the term applied learning. In the adult world, when we are trying to support or get engagement of employees, the number one factor that we look at is what's in it for me. Once we establish what's in it for me and how it applies to their personal lives, we get support in what we want to do. That also applies to the kids. The kids have to understand why reading is important, why math is important. They have to demonstrate how it impacts their personal lives, their ability to use a computer, their ability to text better, faster, whatever it is. We need to the kids have to understand what their learning means to their lives. So really we have to accelerate the applied learning philosophy in our educational system. And then for our standpoint, we'd love to have manufacturing promoted as a viable career because it's a solid, well-paying, better-paying job than all of the sectors out there, and it's one of the core of our society. Next one, Cynthia. What can you do? What can education do from an outreach activity standpoint? You can seek out organizations that are working to improve education. And we can provide you with some of those organizations and where they're working. For example, SME has a program called Prime. They have about 20 schools that they're working with manufacturing organizations. These organizations are located in Illinois, Louisiana, California, Iowa, Massachusetts, Ohio, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. Well, basically they work with a local manufacturing and the school from a pull-through mentality so they understand what skills they need to develop and what's in it for them with regard to a manufacturing career. We also have a number of programs working with VOTEC schools to help provide the skills for these kids that maybe don't want to go to college, that will prepare themselves for manufacturing careers. We need to improve literacy at all levels. We need to improve the teacher's competency in the processes and the outcome expectations. I mean, we got to stop teaching to the test, and we start teaching the competency. And we need to upgrade our teachers and help them, because they all have a desire to do a good job. And we need to help them remove the roadblocks so that they can be more successful. When we practice applied learning, we can relate education to behavioral needs of our community and our world of work. We talked about that. Help these kids take ownership of what they're doing and relate it to their everyday lives. And that'll accelerate their enthusiasm for what they want to learn. Ask manufacturers what behaviors and skills they need from our students. Get feedback. I've often asked the question, who is the customer in education? And I get a variety of answers, most of which say they're stakeholders. We have multiple stakeholders. I would surmise that you basically have to focus on the customer, which is the recipient of our kids, which is our community and our workforce. And they're the ones that pretty much establish the competency and the performance that you're trying to develop as an educational system. So asking the customer what is needed is important to designing the curriculum. Next one, Cynthia.
Okay.
Promote manufacturing as a career. One of the big ones is STEM learning initiatives. Innovation has been a core of this society. We need to accelerate it and continue to develop us as an innovator leader of the world. We need to sponsor manufacturing trips. When you partner up with a local manufacturer, get the kids out to the floor, show them what it is, show them where your learning, the educational learning system, applies to an everyday work job. Invite manufacturing for presentations and partner with local manufacturing consortia. AME is developing a network of consortia in local areas that will be more than happy to cooperate with our educational system to help our kids learn more about manufacturing. Excuse me for a minute. This is a Rubio moment. Cultivate stakeholders. Identify with whom, what's in it for them, as I said before, respond to their needs, and ask them to support educational improvement initiatives. You will find that if you begin to respond to your local manufacturing community and supporting their needs, they will help support your initiatives in driving literacy legislation. But it's not I don't believe it's a top-down issue. You can't go to the government and say, please, please, please do this on regulation. If you build a momentum and you build an initiative, the government will come along with legislation with which to support it. I think it's a better approach, a more successful approach for sustainability. Next one, Cynthia.
Okay.
This is a graphic that pretty much shows the continuum and the number of organizations that are available to support the variety of learning throughout the educational system. And I give it to you as a reference guide, and we are always available to give you more information with regard to who's doing what, where in your particular territory. I'd like to leave you, next one, Cynthia. I'm going to leave you with, I just want to make sure you have two basic thoughts in mind for this little talk. America needs a strong, growing manufacturing community to drive a robust economy. And in order to do that, manufacturing needs a competent, literate workforce to successfully address its ongoing, ever-changing challenges. And you all in this room are a key aspect in that. Literacy is the pivot, the coastals, which we drive everything on. It's the anchor of what we need in manufacturing. The last slide is just contact information. Whenever you have a need, we're more than willing to work with you. Questions?
Now, Paul, could you talk to us a little bit about how they would reach out in their community to meet the corporations or the industry leaders that maybe could help them form groups that could join them in the state departments to push these laws?
I can, well, a couple different ways. Number one, you tell me who wants to reach out where, and I'll put you in contact with our local contact or manufacturing representatives, if you will, either a consortia or one of my regional board members, or somebody who's working with the Prime program at SME. We're in the process of overlaying all these activities. So you tell me where the hot spot or where you want to reach out, and I'll be able to give you a contact name to reach out there, to work with them.
Great. Yes, thank you.
Oh, can I ask them a point of blank?
Yep.
Is Tim Sheehy one of your contact people in Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Pardon me?
Is Tim Sheehy from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, one of your contacts?
Jim Sheehy?
Tim Sheehy?
Wisconsin?
I don't who's he with, ma'am?
He's with the Southeast Metropolitan Manufacturers.
I've heard his name, but I do not believe I've had any relationship with him, no.
Is there a name that you would be able to share, who you might think in Southeast Wisconsin, or in Milwaukee, or Madison?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll be more to get it. I'll get one for you.
Okay, I'll be in touch. Thank you.
By the way, there's another organization. The Baldrige program has 38 state programs that drive continuous improvement through the Baldrige framework throughout North America and in the U.S. And that's another vehicle.
Can you spell that for us, please?
Baldrige. It's called the Alliance for Performance Excellence. If you go to baldridgep.org, you'll find a complete listing of all the Baldrige programs. The Alliance on the right-hand side of the screen has the Alliance and all the names and the contacts of each one of them. And every one of them is trying to improve education through a Baldrige performance framework. In Wisconsin, it's called the Wisconsin Forward Award. Liz Menzer is the contact there. In fact, Liz Menzer is the one I would talk to on contacting a variety of people in Wisconsin. She's very well networked in Wisconsin, and she can be a very good help. And her information is on baldridgepe.org website.
Thank you so much.
And Paul, are we allowed to use your name when we reach out in the communities?
Are you allowed to use my? I hope it doesn't hurt you, but yes, you can.
Thank you. Well, it may in a couple places.
In the area of Baldrige, I am currently on the Baldrige Foundation board. I'm also on the Alliance, which is the state program board. So pretty much in that community, I know most all of the state representatives, and if my name helps you, by the way, if it doesn't, would you let me know?
Paul, one other question. A lot of people think of manufacturing jobs as being low-paying and blue-collar. When I've, in the last 6 months working with your groups, I've come to realize how high-paying these jobs are, and also that they take a lot of STEM, as you said earlier. But what we know is the kids can't go into STEM in middle school unless they're highly competent or at least proficient with literacy in early elementary school. And when you talk about these programs of bringing kids in to manufacturing, can you share with them a little bit about what that goal is and how you're inspiring them to get through to their education?
I think there's a number of programs out there that are turning kids on, and a lot of them deal with innovation. There's fairs. I'm sure you're all aware of a variety of STEM type of activities, junior achievement, things of this sort. Some pretty basic, some more advanced. We expect to bring these kids in with more of those kind of job fairs and activities, accelerate those. For example, I have an organization in the suburb of Chicago we're working with right now that puts high school kids into a 8-week boot camp internship and prepares them for employment in manufacturing. They have a 75% employment placement rate with regard to the program. I just visited with the Economic Development Director for San Antonio, Texas, who has another program, the same kind of a bridge program, to prepare these kids. The other thing that I think has been missing is the industrial arts section of our educational system. Unfortunately, I think it's been eliminating or eroded as a result of lack of funding. This again, I will tell you right now, I still have a stool in my home that I made in high school. And I have a tremendous amount of pride in that stool that I made. And I think the lack of this industrial arts craftsmanship in high school has eroded the desire to get into manufacturing as well. So I think that would be a good move. But the more you can take them and show them that manufacturing is a clean, high-tech type of career path, the more they're going to be motivated to go out and seek employment in the manufacturing community.
Good question here.
I have a question. Paul, my name is Phyllis and I'm from Northern Kentucky, and you reached out to me a couple of years ago and we had a great conversation, and you sent a letter as well that I used in promoting legislation in Kentucky. My question is, have you had any luck in approaching your local Chamber of Commerce on this issue?
I would love it if that camera would focus on the people rather than the slides so I can see some of y'all.
That's your nice young lady. She's a yellow shirt.
We are working with the one of the organizations that we started to work with is the National Chamber of Commerce, and they are somewhat accepting of the direction, but I don't think we're that high in the food chain.
No.
So I don't know how far that's going to go. We will work with our local chambers, our local MEPs, manufacturing extension partnerships, a number of different local communities, economic development directors. My regions work with them on an ongoing basis. I don't work with them from a national standpoint. I do the Washington stuff with the big organizations to the extent that we can work together. For example, with Rich Long, with IRA, and Cynthia, we're also looking at working with the Department of Education to help stimulate some of their drives. So I work mostly on a national basis and let my regions work on a localized basis. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does. What you found that you're not high on the food chain is exactly what I found with the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. They have a department focusing on education initiatives, but they wouldn't give me any time of day on this. And even with your letter, they just weren't interested, and I was troubled by that, quite frankly.
Well, Having traveled Kentucky for 2 years in my earlier years, I can totally understand that. But we have a consortium, by the way, in northern Kentucky of approximately 12 different manufacturing organizations. And we were looking to use them as more of a model to begin to do a bridge with the educational community in that area as well. And we can follow up with that as well. I'm not too sure why Kentucky would not be supportive of where we want to go from a literacy standpoint. That bothers me a little bit. They normally are very supportive and very progressive in education.
Well, are we talking about Kentucky?
Well, you got to divide Kentucky into two halves. You got the western, and then you got eastern Kentucky, and those are totally different worlds.
Yes, it is.
Traveled them for 2 years.
Wow. Thank you.
I want to know what you thought about working through schools, like through guidance counselors, the middle school and the high school, and you know, CTE directors in the comprehensive high school, and how to get those people more knowledgeable. Oh, sorry.
I would tell you that the guidance counselors are the most critical part of what we want to do. My children came out of a very good school system on the western part of Chicago, western suburb of Chicago, and they practiced things in that school that I couldn't believe. They wouldn't let the parents in for the counseling. They wouldn't let the trades in to show their wares and a potential career. They were only focused on college. That, I think, is very restrictive and is not in the best interest of our kids. So I think the counselors are a very big key to any career in the guidance of our kids and what they need to be successful in the workplace and in our society.
I think at this point we have to move along to our next item, but Paul, this is Stuart. You can't see me. I'm one of the two males here.
Lucky guy.
She said 2 earlier. I don't even think we were being counted. So but anyway, Paul, seriously, thank you very much. I think we all understand that given Paul's mission, that anytime you can give him an opportunity to know that there's an active group of talented parents, educators, and others who want to make the same kind of changes thereafter, that's a good thing for him and us. So thank you so much for explaining all that to us, Paul, and I hope your voice returns to you.
One point I would like to make, if you would all go to the AME.org website and go to our tab that calls for regions, you will see the 9 regions in North America and each of the board members within those regions and their contact information. I would suggest those are the first points of contact to solicit assistance that you would all want to go to.
Great idea, Paul. Great idea.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Paul.
all for inviting me. Have a good day.
A couple of key things. When I was in a group in Washington about 2 months ago, they were worried that they feel that 4 to 6 million jobs will be open within a decade because the baby boomers are exiting. And they already have 600,000 open. So what happens? Well, what happens is they said, well, we go either import talent from other countries or we export the jobs. Not good for America.
Good argument right there. Really
Did you
good.
want to make a point?
Well, it's maybe a strategy, which is that any student with an IEP, once they reach 14, they have to have transitional planning in there, and that's often a real throwaway if you look at it. And in my unfortunate extensive experience with special education lawyers, good ones, we've used that vehicle to get really, really good education for these kids, whatever is appropriate for them. And I wonder if that was all on a one-on-one basis, but I think we should all remember that transitional planning component of the IEPs could be really used to make an economic argument and get these kids better education.
Now, we should write a white paper on that. We should write like a 1-page essay.
Well, let me just add one thought,
Okay,
and
I'll
then,
draft.
Okay, you got it.
since we're all ducking and covering on this one, but just a quick point, and then we're going to switch over to some in-depth work that you're going to do, is just to say, as the conversation unfolded, it dawned on me, just because a partner like Paul and his organization, I should say his organization, might be helpful to you, does not mean that that partnership is not valuable to him and his organization. And I say that because sometimes when you go in and talk to a legislator or a funder, you think, God, please do me this favor. You know, and we had a discussion yesterday about legislators, and in point of fact, you're doing them a favor by creating an opportunity for them to do something good that would justify their existence in a genuine way, as opposed to just paying to say something good about themselves. I think also in a way with Paul and his organization, I actually, maybe it's a male thing, but I had gone to the website and looked at those regional structures when we had the Wisconsin question and thought, the person you need to speak to is there. And that will help Paul. You call that person, and they're going to call Paul and say, thank you. So just to say in the way the human brain works, just because somebody partnering with you does you a favor doesn't mean you're not doing them a favor. And I'm not suggesting about being arrogant and what have you done for me lately kind of attitude. I just noticed that and thought I'd mention it.
Both ways,
Yeah, absolutely. And if it doesn't, then they won't partner with you. Now, I know we need to move on, but Jenna, you wanted to?
Well, just the culture, what you're talking about, kind of the internal culture shift that we all have to make to be able to do that, to not feel so humble all the time, that we can go there from a position of real strength and knowledge, you know, and
The cultural shift, the way you think. You know, I talked to a group of clean energy advocates, and I just started by saying, you're patriots. You are patriots. That's a very loaded word, right? And you are a solution. You are a solution to a problem this country faces. There is some manufacturing coming back. The China price for manufactured goods has gone up for various reasons. And sources of energy here, it's a variety of reasons it's coming back. Not like it once was, as Paul pointed out. But 600,000 jobs unfilled? Are you kidding me? And those jobs require people, English language learner, kids with dyslexia, kids at crappy schools, seeds, kids, need to get the tools they need to read and succeed and enter into this manufacturing world because the country needs it. So you are a solution.
so we need to be strong, we need to have a hook.
Well, and I think the
It's
other
not
thing,
just education
I think the other
sometimes.
thing is, well, you know, you could go into manufacturing as opposed
As a
to,
default.
there are some really cool manufacturing jobs. Because I think that for many of us who have been told our kids wouldn't amount to anything because of their dyslexia, if we don't frame this new field of manufacturing as a forward field, then it's just going to be like, well, you know, maybe you'll get to work at McDonald's. So I think that there's some marketing and some sizzle to be, and some understanding about what those possibilities look like.
Well, and I think it was Cheryl, right, who was talking about the problem in Wisconsin. And what I heard you saying is just to describe your problem, what I didn't think you were necessarily needing a solution, but here's what I'm experiencing. And the last thing I would say is, and they won't believe you when you're talking about manufacturing. You have to have one of them come in with you to talk about that, even though I'm sure many of you could be or are successful at manufacturing. Laura, and then I think we need to shift to our group work. Yeah, go.
Because we've expanded our policy agenda to include the workplace in the last year and a half, I've been learning a lot about just different federal funding and also what's happening with partnerships around the country. And one of the interesting things that is likely happening in many of your communities are these work-based learning initiatives. And they're specific programs that have some funding, but it's usually a public-private partnership. And it's more than just an internship. I mean, these students actually get to go off-site and have real-life working experiences and go experience whether they would want to have that, you know, opportunity for a career. And so I would just encourage you to look into what's happening in your communities on that, because it could be a great partner as you're thinking about how to expand potential for, you know, these young adults that are trying to transition. And then I just wanted to clarify, there's a change in IDEA law. Your state did a great thing by keeping transition age at age 14. but the law now allows it to be at 16. So unfortunately, some states have reverted and moved it to 16, but that's something parents lost in the last idea reauthorization, just to make it clear. Federal law says age 16, but many states like Pennsylvania just kept their age 14 because they know it's better practice to start that discussion earlier when kids are
I'm not sure
younger.
that's why they did it, but.
Well, whatever. I'll give you credit.
Can we just maybe make a couple comments to go with that?
Oh, I'm not the boss. I think you got to.
I'm not sure who's guiding our conversation
Yeah,
at the moment.
I think we did want to switch to the work group
Yeah.
activity,
Okay.
was what I was instructed,
Then we're gonna follow your lead.
and I'm going to follow their lead. So as to, I'm sorry, Vicki, can you hold it, and then we'll come back to it?
I'll tell Laura and she'll fix it.
Okay, thanks for your patience with all of that. We're going to move. Now, I cannot describe what we're about to do next, so I'm not sure who's going to describe the work group activity.
Yeah, we will work together. A couple things just to wrap up with Paul, if I may, before we get into our working session. Literate Nation is working right now with several partners. Paul is the first one that was cultivated, and his group that then moved to 3 others. He is 100%, as you can see by his slide, in line with our literacy law. I'm working with the chamber, I know Laura is too. They are in line with our goals, but they will not yet support the literacy law. I think we're about 3 months away from that. Once that happens, we'll be able to move and have all of you go into the chambers of commerce in all of your states and your cities. They're close, and our advocate likes it and is pushing for it. They just have so many silos within their own organization working on different things for legislation that they don't understand that this is going to help all they do, but they will. So that comment that Paul made is because I did introduce him to the chamber. We work together, and he's pushing as hard as we are, so we'll continue with this.